All right, we'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity for Legacy Partners Workbook. Are all of you having as much fun as I am today?
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so the goal is independence. So the goal is independence. That's the goal. What do you mean by that, Mark? Thanks for asking. So sometimes I get the feelings, and my feelings are obviously very important. Sometimes I get the feeling that if I don't walk people through things, um, they won't do things. So I can't even tell you how many people have gone through this workbook. Well, we're supposed to go through the workbook, but they haven't gained as much value as going through with me. Have you all experienced that too?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, I'm not fishing for compliments. I'm just saying, like, I want you all to take two people through the workbook. I mean, that's really what the model is. The art, the art tree is taking your two art buddies through, and you're an art mentor. So everybody gets one art mentor and two art buddies. And so, you think you learn a lot from your parents, but when you have kids, I'm not saying you learn more, but you do more. There's more quantity that you learn from your kids than you do from your parents. Hopefully, the quality is stuff from your parents laid a foundation. If it didn't, that's okay. Anyways, don't want to get distracted, but I do want you all to be able to learn how to do this without me. And so that's the goal. It's independence. All right, what'd you come up with? We're going through pages 40, 41, and 42 today, I think it is. Okay, so what'd you guys come up with?
This is the first time that I truly understood what the golden triangle actually was.
Nice.
I've heard you talk about it, I've seen you go through it, but this is the first time that I've actually, after watching the Clarity for Success video, this is the first time that it's actually clicked on what it actually is.
And so if you can get that for your Action Vision coaching client, like how powerful would that be?
Be very powerful.
And Tom Kuhn, he just looked at the 530 grid and he just understood the significance of it. I mean, he just understood the significance of it. And when you go ahead and understand, that okay, here is the 530 grid and it's explained in 7 minutes. And then you go ahead and say, okay, and there's 4 different ways to learn the 530 grid. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. And that's 7 minutes. And then when you go ahead and learn, the 6 levels of the 530 grid in the 3 segments, like, well, that's interesting. And that's 7 minutes. And then you go through and you say, oh, GT it. Oh, I'll never forget when Tom said, take out all the extra arrows. So there used to be arrows running between everything because I wanted to convey everything interconnects, like box 1 connects with box 30 and box 30 connects with box 14 and box 14 connects with 7, like they all interconnect. And when Tom went ahead and said, take out all the little arrows, I'm like, no, I didn't say that. I'm thinking it. I'm like, no, like, Tom, you don't understand. You don't get it. I'm like, Mark, like, he ran the largest real estate franchise in the world. Just trust him. So I took them all out, wiped it all out. So now it was all clean. And then he says, okay, now tell me about the 530 grid. And I said, oh, you start off up here in the upper left-hand side, then you do that, then you do this, and then you do this. He says, there's an order. I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. He's like, you got to put numbers on it. I'm like, I thought you said I just need to simplify it. And so, then you start, so now you've got them numbered. you know, and here's internalization. Like, why did we put it here? So you could actually learn how to learn faster. And then, 3 feet from gold, it's like, okay, like when people feel like quitting, like you're going to feel like quitting. I'm an expert in this conversation. You're going to feel like quitting as a legacy partner. You just will. How do I know that? Because that's just how things work in life. You're so close to success, and then all of a sudden you quit. In action vision coaching, if you don't get your client to go through this, you need to get them to go through this. It's 7 minutes, and they're going like, holy cow, that's genius. Like Tom, he felt the genius of the system without even knowing. He just could feel it. He could sense it. You gotta go ahead and do this. Like, this is great for your kids. Teach your kids that you're gonna go ahead and have a breakthrough in life if you don't give up. Don't give up. Don't quit. Then it gets into some really cool stuff like, leadership, profitable partnerships, and and then it gets into, once you get this down, then you start looking at your success stories and feeding those back in. It's like Miracle Grow. So anybody that's a gardener, like, this is really cool here. This is some funky stuff. And then you get into this, the prospect rescue. And then you start asking for referrals, and it's the science behind it. This stuff has taken literally decades to go ahead and figure out, and you're able to go ahead and get it in 7 minutes. All this stuff is like when you start seeing how it's all crafted together, you appreciate, and when you appreciate it, you trust the integrity of the system more. Nice. All right, what else?
I guess I'm with Elaine on that part. I never really noticed it.
You're a little light. You're soft.
Okay, is this better?
That's better.
Okay. I'm with Elaine on that part because I don't think I ever really realized what that is, the triangle, and yeah, I've definitely heard you talk about it. Never really studied on what it is.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and so when you go ahead and understand, when you have something, and so I'm a terrible salesperson. I really am. People think I'm a great sales. I'm not. But when you are passionate about your product, your service, where you can see it's life changing, like people complain, business owners complain about not having enough time. You get these systems in place, you get the golden triangle in place, and it's good for getting more business. It's good for recruiting. It's all of those things. And almost no businesses have that. When you look at our own business, we struggle with it, right? like, like we struggle, hey, you got to do these 6 things. I mean, there's a whole workbook on this, a very extensive one. We probably ought to put that in here. I don't think it's in here, but this is the challenge we have, right? It's like people say, well, Mark, you're always going down a rabbit hole. I know. But the more you know, you don't know.
Those rabbit trails are often needed because the main topic is there, but you have to have the rabbit trail to go down to understand it more in depth.
And did you all hear Elaine? I don't know if you did. like, like, how does he know? How does he know I'm listening? And how does he know that I'm not listening to Elaine? Like, but it would take you an infinite number of hours. Yeah. So you gotta, I don't know, when you go down a rabbit hole, you say, I'm going to spend 10 minutes, on this. So Ben, he went ahead and took 3 hours to go through, every one of these videos. Not something I would recommend doing. But I think it was good for him because he went through, they're 7 minutes long, but it's overwhelming to his mind. So maybe he should have gone through 3 hours in this. And then when I told him go through, like, I don't know, 7 minutes a week, like go through one of these and communicate, like articulate, what does the 5:30, what's this first video do for you? re-explain it, because he's going to need that when he's coaching. He's going to need that when he's selling. How do you synthesize something into something so small? So maybe you only have 10 minutes. Well, you know that it's out there. If you take 10 or 15 minutes, you say, I'm going down this rabbit hole. It's only going to take 10 or 15 minutes. And that's all I'm going to do. You could spend 3 hours. You can spend 30 hours on this, but you don't have 30 hours, but you do have 30 minutes or 10 minutes. So you're familiar and say, okay, I'm going to time block and I'm going to go through, I'm going to go through 7 minutes a day. And I might need to go through it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So when Elaine says what she's saying, you have to listen to what she's saying. Very few people, like if you're one of those whiners and say, I don't know, like Eeyore on Winnie the Pooh, it's like, oh, this is so much work. There's so many rabbit holes. You can choose not to be a legacy partner. You can choose not to go ahead and be a business owner if you want. You can work for somebody else if you want. But if you're going to own your own company, I'm telling you, this thing lays it out. What else you got on any of this?
The develop and deliver and tracking leads. In the 530 just kind of like red flagged or brought more significance than ever, probably because I'm struggling with that right now.
Yeah. Do you know why it has more significance for you, Marla, than it does for most people?
I don't.
Because you're making phone calls. And I don't know if we said it in the workbook, but one inbound response is equal to 260 outbound. So it's equivalent when we have somebody that responds. This is why I'm saying, hey, we have a response. We need to get on it right away. We need to get on it right away. And so, I don't work on Sundays mostly, but I don't work any day of the week mostly. So I'll really look at what but if I get a response on a Sunday, I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, great, if I see it, I'm going to say, hey, maybe we can touch base on, Monday or Tuesday. It's like being on the farm. If a cow is going to go ahead and give birth on a Sunday, you go ahead and give birth, like you just do. you just do, because you have to do that. And to go ahead and respond. So the response rate is really important. And so if we respond quickly to somebody who responds to us, it's equivalent to Marla making 260 outbound phone calls. So when you make calls like Marla's doing, and she's buried me. I have so many great leads, and she's taking an hour a day, roughly. And there's days she doesn't feel like making calls. There's days that health-wise, she could easily say, you know what, I'm not feeling it. Some days, a lot of days she pushed through. Some days she doesn't. But the more consistent she can be, the more higher probability she's going to get to her WOW income goal, and the faster she's going to do it. So a lot of times you just push yourself to make one phone call. Once you make one, you say, hey, I'll make 3. Once you make 3, then you say, you know what, I can make 5 or 6 sometimes, but a minimum, I'm going to make 3 phone calls a day based on the MCAT system. And we might have a insert here at some point about the MCAT, a bonus session on how to use that and how to keep up with all your leads, all your people. The average person knows 250 people. The average business owner knows 5,500 people. How do you keep them all organized? So when you understand, develop and deliver a message, you understand, like there's, and a number of you, not all of us that are on right here, we're in the Shipshewana area, northern Indiana. And so we've worked with Life Masteries Institute, and we've done a 50-mile radius, a circle of 50-mile radius. There's 6,000 businesses within a 50-mile radius that we have contact information. So we have identified targets, local targets. So this isn't just for, legacy partners. It's not just for Synergy. It's not just for Action Vision. But these are great prospects for, Jason and Compass Accounting. These are great prospects for Luke and Kenny with Dreamscape Creations. Like, it's like we're not just building our own businesses, we're helping other people build their businesses too. Now, Action Vision is a very powerful influencer. You get somebody on Action Vision for the first year, you don't have control of somebody's life. You have so much influence, it can look like control. So we can introduce them like they don't have the accounting systems that they should. So we can introduce them to Compass Accounting on their Action Vision plan. Are they doing any construction at home or any construction for, the company? We can introduce them to Dreamscape Creations and actually build that in to their plan. Because that's what the whole profitable partnerships is all about. The whole profitable partnerships is when you get a whole bunch of people using the 530 grid, there is so much power. It's insane. They're all working efficiently, and then they can share their databases and share their leads and their networks and their connections. And there's a overall philosophy of how to do business efficiently and productively. Love it. What else? Anything else any of you have?
I thought it was neat that you use the gallons of maple syrup to have a visual of how many calls that you would actually have to make to go into the main of what you would get for the main part of it. If you think about how much it takes down to cook the maple syrup down, and then you have the best part of it, it makes you, if you have a visual, it makes you understand a little bit more on how much it actually takes to have the good part of it.
Right? Did I give Ira credit on that?
No, I don't think you did.
I need to, because I'm pretty sure that's where I got it from. I don't know.
I mean, it's right above your 530 graph.
Okay. So yeah, it was, there were like 3 or 4 people I was talking to about maple syrup. And so I don't know if it was Ira or somebody else, but there were 3 or 4 people at the same time where I'm like, man, that's a lot of work. You better enjoy the results of that. And so, like, when you're teaching somebody else how to do something, you go into their world. So if you're coaching or mentoring or teaching a woman, you want to know, well, what do women think? Gardening a lot. And so, you want to find out whoever you're coaching, you're mentoring, you're developing, your buddies, you want to find out what is it that's their interest, and you want to build that in so they go, oh, that makes sense. So context. So women, especially moms, they're natural business people. They're entrepreneurial. I mean, being a mom and being a school teacher probably are the 2 best training sources for entrepreneurs. Like, you don't get to choose your children. Like, you don't get to choose what their personality is or their temperament is. It's like, I didn't choose this child. Like, obviously, we're not going to tell them that, but it's like, what? So you have to learn how to do that. And you have to learn how to motivate, move them. And you have to learn how to choose your battles. And you have to learn how to sell, a value system. And it's like, well, this is not, I don't want to do this, Mom. I don't want to brush my teeth. I don't want to clean my room. I don't want to do the chores. I don't want to do this. And so Mom, she's got to learn how to sell. And so most women, though, they don't go ahead and realize, they're like, well, I wasn't trained in college. Trust me, as a mom, you learn more probably in a week as a mom than I did with 3 business degrees in college. I'm serious. But it doesn't do you any good. Like, a college degree doesn't do you a bit of good if you don't use it. If you don't use what you learn, it doesn't do any good. As a mom, all the experience you have that can apply to business to make you an amazing businesswoman doesn't do you a bit of good if you don't connect the dots, if you don't understand this is the same thing. Like what I'm doing with my kids, it's the same exact thing I'm doing in business. Same thing. So this will make you a better mom, and being a better mom will make you a better business person. Like what I have found is, when I can't find a problem, when I can't solve a problem in business, I often find it in my marriage or with my kids. When I can't find a solution in my marriage or my kids, I often find it in business. Like these are not mutual. These do not threaten one another. It sometimes can seem like that, but it's not a threat. Business is not a threat to my marriage. Business is not a threat to my children. It helps immensely. I love it. Other questions or thoughts? So, like I was, when I was back in the suburbs of Chicago, I was playing basketball 3 times a week. Once I was walking up and there was this attractive young mom, and she was, holding her like 2-year-old son and holding on for dear life because she knows that poor kid's out of control. He'll run out in the parking lot and he'll get hit by a car. So she's holding on for dear life. I'm walking behind them, and then all of a sudden he jumps up in the air. He's like, "Mommy!" And she's like, "What, honey?" And it's like, "Blue car." And she kneels down and she said, still holding his hand, "It is a blue car, honey. That is so cool." I remember thinking, women are cool. They just are. Like she's got a lot on her mind and she's worried about her sons, trying to protect him from getting hit by a car. But he learned something new, and she's excited about that. And I thought, like, if I was her husband walking behind her, would I be jealous with her 2-year-old, with the 2-year-old, or would I go ahead and learn from the 2-year-old and say, do I get her as excited as my son does? Women, they just love when you're passionate about anything, blue car, anything new. Women just absolutely love that. Do men? Probably. Like men love women who are passionate about things. Men often don't see and observe and understand these things, which is a shame. But I know with women, my wife, my 4 daughters, it's just crazy. I mean, it's even my, youngest daughter who doesn't have children. When she sees me around children and me playing with them and giggling with them and exciting, she's just like, she melts. She's like, "Dad, I love you. I love seeing you around." And she's not a mom yet. And so men especially are passionate about their business. I mean, they pour so much, they sacrifice. I'm not saying every man, I'm just saying the men I know, they want to spend more time with their wives, with their wife. They want to spend more time with their kids. They do. I mean, I did. I do. But they're passionate about their business. And when we get passionate about somebody's business, that's their economic engine. That's what they poured their blood, sweat, and tears into. That's what they've made sacrifices. They didn't want to do what they did. And so I got a text from my son yesterday, and it's like, and it's like, and it says, "Thanks for being one of my heroes that didn't turn into a villain. In fact, most of my life you were the villain, but I see you loud and clear now as a hero that gave up everything just to try to make us kids happy. That's from a 23, 24-year-old young man. So businessmen are way, they're not understood. Yeah, they love their business, they're passionate about their business. They have to be. If they're not, they're going out of business. When we become passionate, same thing with women. Like if I'm passionate about kids, it just makes a mom just like, she's just like, wow, somebody's interested in my child, especially if it's a problem child, especially if she's struggling. If she's struggling with her son or daughter, and her heart, like that's a part of who she is. Like a business is a part of who a man is. So when we're passionate about, and children, every one of them are different. Every one of the grandchildren are different. They're all different. It's crazy. Similar personalities at times, but still very, very different. Same thing is true of the business. When we understand like how this is and how this works, like with 3 bachelor's degrees, they never gave me the 530 grid. They didn't explain any of this stuff. I mean, little pieces here, but nothing that is like the map. Like when Tom Kuhn saw the 530 grid and he said, Mark, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this. I'm like, okay. He says, I don't think you understand the power of what it is. I'm like, I think I do. He's like, I don't think you do. I said, what's the power? He says, it's the Holy Grail. It's like the map. It's like the DNA for business. He's the one, Tom Kuhn is the one that came up with the DNA for business. He says, it's the first time he saw it because he understood all these pieces that are all connected. Just showing a business owner, especially an experienced business owner, the 530 grid, it's like showing a woman, a child, a baby. Like when it's like when a woman, she's out of control. She's got to hold the baby. She's got to nose, got to hug it. Like it's just interesting for men. They're like, okay, that's how, so the 530 grid is like that to a business person. It's like, whoa, somebody's given this a lot. What is this? They can feel the energy and the life flowing through their business. So you ladies awakened me, and I appreciate that. It's cool to see you get excited about this and what it can do for business and how it can help, families to have more time and hopefully go ahead and not have to work so hard, hopefully not have to make the sacrifices. There's still going to be a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work. There's just, but this will make it a lot easier when we understand it. So make sure that you're writing out what you're learning and you're sharing that. That's part of the training process. If you can't write it, you're probably not going to be able to speak it well. So writing something out helps you to speak better. And in sales, you got to speak. You got to be able to communicate. What's the 530 grid? You write this out and you start all of the lessons. You write it out and it's going to embed it in your mind faster. Always remember we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.